2027 here, bringing Toriko chapter 249, The Minorities Rebelling. Yes, the translation came out on time. Sort of, but still on time. So the chapter begins with Ichiryuu summoning the minority world, where basically all the ground is all swirly. That's all I pretty much can describe it. So Ichiryuu summons his nigiribashi, which basically is his chopsticks, while holding each stick in each hand. Looks like he's gonna combat with them, but instead he uses the hashiho, which is the chopstick cannon, to launch them towards Midora. Midora actually just looks at it and just shrugs it up. It's like, it's so slow and so simple. Then he just realized something, and then he managed to dodge it right on time when the chopstick cannon zooms right next to his face. All it did was manage to leave a scratch. Apparently this technique was supposed to be slow, but apparently in the minority world, the delicacy of that technique decreases, but it increases in terms of speed and power. Apparently in the minority world, it's so strong that it can probably go up into space. Yeah, the chopstick cannon just probably went up to space. And then Ichiryuu uses a technique called the Midora-bashi, which basically just launches a bunch of chopsticks towards Midora. And Midora then notices that the ground has gotten all soft, but before he could even do anything, he gets hit by the chopsticks. Yeah, Midora, don't get distracted. That's what happens when you get distracted. You get hit by the attack. So even though he got hit, he tries to use this freaky ass tongue again, and okay, this seriously does not look like a tongue. It looks like a big ass worm. It's just it's all giant now, the big tongue, which is basically destroying all the chopsticks, and is trying to hit Ichiryuu, but apparently Midora missed, and Ichiryuu didn't even dodge it. Hell, he didn't even took a single step. He just stood there, and Midora missed. Somehow. The reason why is because, according to Ichiryuu, his body isn't listening to what he's telling it to do. So then he uses machine gun tongue, which shoots out multiple tongues. I have no freaking clue how the hell Midora can do that, or how the hell he has more than one tongue. But each of those tongues still didn't manage to hit Ichiryuu for some reason, and we actually get to learn more why, and it's because of this minority world. Apparently the reason why the rocks are soft was because the atoms that make the rocks hard was the majority. However, since the minority world has been summoned by Ichiryuu, the minority turns into the majority. So in a way, since the majority of the atoms that make the rocks hard, the minority in the minority world makes the rocks soft, including the ground. So in a way, in the minority world, the opposite of what a thing or an object is happens. Hot becomes cold, fast becomes slow, strong becomes weak. It's basically, minority world is basically opposite land. Or better yet, I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me a bit of Shinji's Zanpakuto Shikai ability, Sakanade. Up is down, left is right, forwards is backwards, right side up is upside down. Which means that the majority of the orders that he wants his body to do is not going to listen. His tongue wants to hit Ichiryuu, which is the majority. Minority is the tongue will not hit Ichiryuu. This makes much more sense than the law of square root applying to the Toriko world. Midora, all of a sudden, he stops for some reason. Veins are all over his body. He retracts his tongue, and then he starts gasping for air. Apparently, his lungs aren't taking in any oxygen because the minority world does not only affect conscious movements, the effects of the minority reaches to all organs that makes the body function. Which means that the lungs are not going to take oxygen, the liver will stop synthesizing glycogen and stop counteracting toxins, his heart will stop pumping, the blood will flow in retrograde, which means his blood vessels and the heart will eventually break down. The information transferring through his nerves are halting. Anything that is giving signals to the internal organs to give the body life, that's the majority. The minority is basically he's heading towards death. And again, how the hell did Ichiryuu lose when he can summon a world where the exact opposite can happen to you? Even your own internal organs that are keeping you alive in the majority In the minority world, it's not going to happen because you're going to be reaching the verge of death. Which begs the question, I mean, like, how far does the minority world range? I mean, how far does it really go up to? Just right now, in the entire island is being affected, or is it just within the range between Ichiryuu and Midora? I'm not really sure. It seems that Ichiryuu has won, and then he summons a single chopstick, and then he says, "I should have ended it that day. I've had that decision for over 500 years." Okay, so this basically confirms that Ichiryuu and Midora are over 500 years old. They're over half a century years old. So, you know, if people can live like over half a century, why the hell do we have like an immortal centaur? What the hell is the point of that if people can live over 500 years? And apparently that fight happened over 500 years ago, which, again, I want to see a flashback of that fight. Seriously, I want to learn, like, why Midora was evil in the freaking first place. And it probably, like, this was probably a fight that made him, like, become even more evil and and created the Bishokukai or something. There's so much that I want to know, and yet we're given, like, tiny portions of it in each chapter, but there's, like, just, like, more that I want to know. I mean, I still want to know Ichiryuu and Midora's backstory. And, like, why Midora became evil. And these guys are, like, over 500 years old. Which makes the question, how the hell do they live that long? But I'm guessing it's because of the gourmet cells. But anyway, it seems that Ichiryuu is going to finally finish off Midora. He's going to use the Ogi Ippon Bashi to slam a single chopstick onto him. But chunks of the chopstick were, like, disappearing for some reason. And then all of a sudden, his freaking arm, not just his entire arm, but onto his shoulder, onto the armpit, all the way up to his torso, chunks of it were, like, taken off from his body. How did that happen? Holy crap. You see Midora, and he's punched a hole in his chest. Blood's coming out of this wound, blood's coming out of his mouth, and apparently, since... You know what? I think, yeah, this is probably the same thing that kind of happened to, like, when Sakanade's ability was inflicted upon Aizen. Because for some reason, Shinji had to tell Aizen his Shikai ability, which is a dumb move, considering you're fighting against Aizen. Because later on, Aizen eventually figures out how to overcome the Shikai and was able to manage to cut Shinji. I remember that part and how stupid Shinji was to explain how his Shikai works to Aizen. You don't do that. And I'm guessing this probably also applies in this situation, since Ichiryuu basically just told Midora how his minority world works. The opposite of what happens in the majority happens in the minority world. Granted, I don't know if Midora actually knew about the minority world or how it works before Ichiryuu told him, but if he learned about this after he told him, then nice going, Ichiryuu, nice freaking going. Since he managed to, like, cause a life-threatening wound on his body, which means that his body is heading towards death, which is the majority. However, the minority is trying to live. So, and I quote, "Because of that, the minority of life rules my body." So, the reason why he's living right now was because he managed to inflict a life-threatening wound, causing him to be on the verge of death, which here in the minority world, the exact opposite happens, which is trying to live, which is now what is happening on his body. So, yeah, that's how you basically survive in the minority world. You try to kill yourself so that you can survive. Okay. And then we actually learn, like, how chunks of the chopstick disappeared and how chunks of his arm and torso disappeared. Ichiryuu was basically eaten by space with a vast appetite, aka hungry space. How the hell did he even do that? We do not know, but we'll probably learn in next week's chapter, because the chapter ends with Midora saying, "Starting now, it's my time." So yeah, that is Toriko chapter 249. What did I think? Well, this was definitely a good chapter, not gonna lie. However, since we learned that Ichiryuu got defeated before the flashback started, it does leave less of an impact when the surprise plot twist happens. But just seeing like what happened to his arm was pretty surprising enough as it is. However, in the final panel, we see Ichiryuu smiling, so maybe even though next week's chapter we're gonna learn hopefully more about this hungry space and how Midora activated it, but we'll probably get to see like more of Midora's abilities, and we'll probably see him gain the upper hand. But since the last panel we did see Ichiryuu smiling, so maybe we'll get to see him continuing to fight. This fight has basically been going on for what, 2-3 chapters right now, and not sure like how much longer this is gonna last. We know that Ichiryuu is gonna be defeated, so seeing how he's gonna be defeated is gonna be interesting, and hopefully we'll learn more about this hungry space. But then again, I still want to know if we're ever gonna get to see the other fights in Gourmet World. I highly doubt it because we gotta finish up this fight first and probably move on to the others. But then again, we still have to see like why and how Midora summoned the meteor spice on the entire human world. Plus, we still gotta know like what happened after that, the aftermath of the meteor spice. I'm not really sure like how long that's gonna really take, but overall I thought the chapter was good, and we'll finally get to see more of Midora's abilities that hopefully doesn't involve with tongues, but involve with hungry space, and we'll get to learn how that works. And we'll probably get to see really how Ichiryuu does get defeated for reals this time. Since these past chapters we saw Ichiryuu gaining the upper hand, and now it's Midora's turn. So yeah, that is Toriko chapter 249. I'm Spider 27, and I will see you guys later. Bye.